The first day of the Battle of Shiloh unfolded with chaos and ferocity as 40,000 Confederate soldiers launched a surprise attack on the Union Army at Pittsburg Landing, Tennessee. It was the largest assault in American history up to that time, catching Union troops unprepared. Amid the confusion, officers were disoriented, soldiers scattered, and defensive lines crumbled. Yet amidst this turmoil, General Ulysses S. Grant emerged as a figure of unshakable resolve. Grant's arrival at Pittsburg Landing was marked by his ability to cut through the chaos with remarkable clarity. While others faltered, he remained calm, rallying stragglers and forming defensive positions to hold the line. His focus was singular: to prevent the Confederate forces from overwhelming his army before reinforcements could arrive. The stakes were monumental. If Pittsburg Landing fell, so would his entire army. Despite being outnumbered and disorganized, Grant devised a strategy to delay the Confederate advance long enough for reinforcements under General Don Carlos Buell to join the fight. He also ordered Lew Wallace's division, stationed just 6 miles away, to move in immediately. As Grant moved across the battlefield, he reassured his commanders that help was on its way, inspiring them to hold their ground. The Confederate forces pressed hard throughout the day, driving Union troops back toward the Tennessee River. However, Grant's calm demeanor and decisive actions ensured that his army did not collapse entirely. He turned what could have been a catastrophic defeat into a desperate but effective delaying action. By nightfall, the Union forces clung to their positions near Pittsburg Landing, awaiting Buell's reinforcements. Grant's ability to maintain composure under fire and adapt to the chaos around him became a defining moment in his military career. His leadership not only saved his army, but also set the stage for a Union counterattack that would come with dawn on April 7th. The Battle of Shiloh would go down as one of the bloodiest engagements of the Civil War, but Grant's unyielding resolve ensured it was not a total disaster for the Union cause. There existed a notable physical bravery and a calm proficiency, alongside his exceptional horsemanship, which was a crucial asset on the battlefield during that era. The enemy made several attempts to flank our right side, where Sherman was stationed. General Sherman assessed the situation, stating that while the boy was bound, they did not falter. He urgently requested reinforcements, inquiring about Buell's whereabouts, only to find Buell unavailable. Consequently, he decided to call for Wallace. When asked if he could maintain his position, he affirmed, though he warned it would come at a cost. At the Battle of Shiloh, Sherman and Grant, despite not being particularly close friends, began to emerge as a formidable partnership that would become one of the most effective collaborations of the war. While many units of the Union Army disintegrated in a panic-stricken retreat, Sherman managed to slow the Confederate advance. However, Grant understood that he might require Lew Wallace's division to endure the battle. Yet confusion surrounded Wallace's troops regarding their arrival at the battlefield, resulting in Wallace's absence. As the Confederates pressed forward, the combat became increasingly intense and chaotic. Grant recognized that in moments of disorder, when circumstances seemed dire, decisive action was necessary to regain control. Contrary to all his previous experiences, Grant found himself on the defensive. The enemy's strategy was to relentlessly assault his forces, showing little concern for their own casualties. Grant understood that he needed to buy time, or his army would be overwhelmed. The first day at Shiloh did not unfold favorably, yet amidst the chaos and noise, which are inherent to any battlefield, no one managed to execute their plans perfectly. Grant learned through difficult experiences and maintained a vision of a favorable outcome despite the surrounding turmoil. He began to contemplate a gradual retreat, establishing successive lines of defense, effectively exchanging ground for time. By 2 p.m., Confederate Commander Beauregard ordered a retreat to Corinth. The battle has concluded, resulting in a technical victory for the Union Army, albeit at a devastating cost. The total casualties amount to 25,000, including the killed, wounded, and missing, marking a grim milestone in American history. This figure surpasses the casualty counts from the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812, which involved smaller armies. On the second day of the battle, I witnessed an open field so strewn with the dead that one could traverse it by stepping on bodies without ever touching the ground. The name Shiloh translates to place of peace, Yet for 2 days it was anything but peaceful. The significance of Shiloh lies in its role as a wake-up call for the nation, revealing the harsh reality of the conflict it had engaged in. It was as if a metaphorical postcard from the battlefield was sent back to America, depicting the dead and conveying the message. This is the reality of your commitment. This experience compelled us to confront the truth. It forced us to mature and understand that the war would be far more challenging than anyone had anticipated. Keep these men digging, Captain. Let's finish this by nightfall. Yes, sir. Ulysses S. Grant has now moved down the Mississippi River and is in the midst of the Vicksburg campaign. In just 17 days, Grant's army covered 200 miles and secured 5 victories, leading to the current siege. Upon his arrival at Shiloh and the initiation of siege operations, Grant established a line of entrenchments opposite the Confederate positions to cut off vital supply routes to the city. Additionally, he constructed another series of defenses to guard against any potential Confederate attacks from the rear. Now he plans to encircle Vicksburg with artillery, even bringing naval artillery from ships to bombard the city. The objective is to apply maximum pressure, compelling the Confederates to recognize that the sacrifices made are no longer justified. The fundamental approach in any siege involves isolating the besieged population, compelling them to deplete their military supplies, and, more critically, their food reserves, ultimately leading to their surrender. Consequently, Grant's forces are expected to expand to over 70,000 soldiers over time, intensifying the military pressure. Meanwhile, the Confederate government in Richmond expresses significant concern regarding the situation in Vicksburg. A faction has emerged advocating for a shift in focus from the Eastern Front, where conditions are favorable, to the Western Front, where challenges abound. In response, Robert E. Lee argues that even if reinforcements are dispatched to Vicksburg, they may arrive too late to make a difference. He opts instead to advance northward in search of a decisive confrontation with Union forces in Pennsylvania. Concurrently, Grant maintains his pressure on Vicksburg to bring the siege to a conclusion. By late June, the Confederate army in Vicksburg was surviving on meager rations of peas and rice, distributed once daily per soldier. Their water supply was also severely limited, with each soldier receiving only 1 cup per day. As summer temperatures soared, Grant took measures to dam the creeks supplying the area. The Confederates faced bombardment from Union gunboats and artillery. Additionally, a civilian population of approximately 2,000 remained trapped within the city, living in makeshift underground caves to shield themselves from the relentless shelling by Union forces. The only times these civilians emerged from their shelters were during the Union artillerymen's meal breaks. Grant is acutely aware of the hardships endured by the civilians in Vicksburg. While he does not take pleasure in their suffering, he believes that without breaking the resolve of the Southern populace, the war is unlikely to reach a resolution. The civilians in Vicksburg, who had been able to secure ample food just weeks prior, were now clearly suffering from starvation, resorting to consuming anything that moved, including rats. By early July, it became evident that the Confederates were nearing their breaking point. On July 3rd, 2 individuals approached our lines carrying a white flag, a sight that filled the soldiers with hope. On that sweltering afternoon, coinciding with Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, Confederate Commander John Pemberton sought to negotiate the terms of surrender with General Grant. "General Pemberton," he began, "your terms surprise me. I propose no proposals. The terms are non-negotiable, unconditional surrender. Sir, we must discuss terms. Number, consider the practicality. What will we do with 30,000 prisoners? It would be wiser to propose terms." "What do you suggest?" Pemberton asked. "I am willing to accept parole, but only if my men can leave with their personal belongings." "By personal belongings, do you include slaves?" "Only sidearms and horses, no slaves." "No slaves will accompany you. You have until 10 o'clock tonight to surrender. After that, we will attack the city." At this juncture, Grant's reputation for demanding unconditional surrender was well established. However, his willingness to parole the men at Vicksburg demonstrated his mental flexibility. He likely considered the implications of sending 30,000 demoralized soldiers back to their communities, where they would have to admit their defeat. "General Grant, keep your sidearms," he instructed, acknowledging the suffering endured by the enemy. especially in the final days. I witnessed our soldiers sharing bread from their rations with the very enemy they had been trying to starve. Grant did not harbor animosity toward the Southern people. He viewed them as fellow Americans who had lost their way. While he disagreed with their cause, he maintained a sense of compassion for the individuals involved, which influenced his interactions with the Confederates throughout the Civil War. Thus, Vicksburg surrendered. The Mississippi River is now navigable once more. As Lincoln remarked, the Father of Waters flows freely to the sea. Notably, this news coincides with the announcement of the victory at Gettysburg during the same weekend. Dear General, when you initially approached Vicksburg, I held only a general hope for the success of the expedition. Lacking any firm belief, I must now personally acknowledge that you were correct and I was mistaken. Yours sincerely, a Lincoln. The correspondence between Grant and Lincoln marks the beginning of their relationship, showcasing their remarkable exchanges. Both men hail from the West, sharing a common philosophy and perhaps a similar outlook, which laid the foundation for their future interactions. This victory represented the culmination of a lengthy campaign, characterized by numerous challenges, and Grant's determination to seize what appeared to be an impenetrable stronghold. Since July 1863, military experts have extensively analyzed the Vicksburg campaign. The Army's warfighting manual even designates it as the most exceptional campaign ever conducted on American soil. While the Civil War is often described as the last of the old wars and the first of the modern conflicts, Grant can be regarded as the first modern American warrior. So, what brings the renowned Mark Twain to my parlor? General, I have a purpose for my visit. I understand you have agreed to write your memoirs for Century Magazine. They have made me an offer. What royalty have they proposed? 10%. General, they are treating you as if you were a prophet from an obscure army. Allow me to present you with a better offer. However, you are too late, Clemens. I have already committed to Century as my publisher, and I cannot retract my promise. Let me publish your memoirs. I assure you it will secure your family's future and enrich the nation with your story. By 1884, Ulysses S. Grant, the Civil War general and two-term president of the United States, found himself in dire financial straits. Sam Clemens, widely recognized as Mark Twain, visited his home with the intention of assisting Ulysses S. Grant in writing his memoirs, aiming to create a lasting account of his perspective on the Civil War and a significant chapter in American history. Eventually, Grant accepted Twain's proposal, motivated by the need to provide financial support for his family and alleviate their poverty. However, during the summer preceding the commencement of his writing, Grant experienced a troubling incident while eating a peach, which led to a painful sensation in his throat. After consulting a physician, he received the devastating diagnosis of cancer, with the prognosis indicating that surgery was not an option. Faced with the reality of his terminal condition, he pondered his fate, dreading the prospect of enduring sleepless nights while struggling for breath. Despite these harrowing circumstances, Grant persevered in writing his memoirs. He described the agony of each sip of water as akin to consuming molten lead. This endeavor was a testament to his remarkable resilience, as he fought through excruciating pain, determined to complete the memoirs and secure his family's financial future. This final struggle against his illness became a race against time to finish his work before succumbing to cancer. True to his character, Grant refused to be defeated, ultimately completing the manuscript. The memoirs were dedicated to the American soldier and sailor, signed by Ulysses S. Grant in 1885. He passed away just 3 days after penning the last page. Twain immediately recognized the significance of Grant's work as a monumental contribution to American literature. The memoir holds immense importance, reflecting the legacy of an American family that has been rooted in the nation for generations. It generated over $500,000 for Julia Grant, a sum that would be considerably higher in today's currency. The memoir achieved remarkable success, garnering widespread readership. It is often overlooked that at the time of his death, Grant was arguably the most renowned American globally, and the public's reaction to his passing was extraordinary. The national funeral held in New York City that day commenced with bells tolling across the nation, both in the North and the South. It was a collective expression of sorrow for him. In 1900, Theodore Roosevelt remarked that Grant, Lincoln, and Washington stood as the three principal heroes in American history. Even at the dawn of the 20th century, Grant remained a significant figure in this heroic narrative. However, in the subsequent decades, his stature diminished considerably. This decline can be attributed to the fact that many pro-Southern historians began to shape the narrative of the war, a phenomenon often referred to as the lost cause. This narrative represents the South's attempt to rationalize the immense sacrifices made for a cause as morally reprehensible as slavery. They reframed the story, asserting that it was fundamentally about states' rights and independence. Consequently, this version of history became the dominant perspective, overshadowing Grant's contributions. Grant's legacy faced three distinct assaults. He is often labeled as the butcher, the drunkard, and the corrupt politician. These negative portrayals overshadow his achievements, reducing him to a figure who won the Civil War, yet struggled with alcoholism and had a troubled presidency. The lost cause narrative positions Grant as the antagonist and Lee as the hero. As the generation that revered him faded away, Grant was largely forgotten. While the Confederates may have lost the Civil War, they triumphed in the War of Myth, with Grant cast in an unfavorable light within that myth. Would you like me to share a quote? Here is one from a Confederate soldier. Ulysses, dear General Grant, I hope you will permit one who, as a boy, laid down his arms at Appomattox and pledged allegiance to the Union to convey my deepest sympathy for your suffering. I have observed your actions since the moment you entrusted me with my horse and sword and instructed me to return home and help cultivate the land. I have taken pride in witnessing the nation honor you. There is an undeniable beauty and quintessentially American essence in his narrative. He emerged from humble beginnings, facing numerous hardships and setbacks throughout his life. Yet he ascended to the pinnacle of power, becoming the most distinguished general of his era. Defying the odds and overcoming significant challenges, he emerged as the victorious general of the Civil War. He commanded the triumphant army that facilitated the liberation of 4 million individuals. Grant embodies the unassuming hero of our nation's most significant saga, the Civil War and Reconstruction. He was dedicated to achieving a fully just and equal America, earning the title of the first civil rights president. His ascent is as remarkable as any other in American history, characterized by an indomitable spirit, relentless determination, and a strong moral vision. He is a true fighter, representing an American tale that reflects not only patriotism, but also the values that define us and our aspirations. One of my guiding principles has always been that when embarking on any journey or undertaking, one should never turn back or pause until the intended goal is achieved. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel.